Diana Duve's perfect life ended the night she stepped into Elias Rowan's car, an innocent decision that unraveled a deadly web of obsession, betrayal, and a cover-up so carefully planned it nearly fooled everyone. But when Myles' trembling secret surfaced, the truth behind Clearwater Bay's most chilling murder finally came to light. Diana Duve had always been the kind of person everyone admired. At 27, she had built a stable career as a nurse at Clearwater Bay General Hospital, a small but busy medical center in the heart of town. Her life seemed ordinary from the outside: an apartment filled with books, plants on every windowsill, and a cat that greeted her every evening. But what people didn't see was the quiet restlessness that had been growing inside her. She was trying to move on from a toxic relationship that had left scars deeper than anyone knew. That Friday evening, she finished her hospital shift, waved goodbye to a colleague, and walked out into the warm, fading light. Her steps were slow, almost thoughtful, as if she had too much on her mind. Security footage later revealed her leaving through the rear exit of the hospital parking lot. Around 9:45 p.m. she carried her brown leather bag, the one she took everywhere. But there was something strange about the video. She wasn't heading toward her own car. Instead, she turned toward a dark sedan parked a few spaces away. The camera's angle caught just enough to show a man waiting inside. Diana opened the passenger door and got in without hesitation. That was the last time anyone saw her alive. When she failed to show up for her night shift the next day, concern spread quickly. Diana was known for her punctuality, and missing work without a call was completely unlike her. By the afternoon, her mother, Elias Duve, had already contacted the police, trembling as she described her daughter's routines and the last time she had heard her voice. Officers checked her apartment first. The door was locked from the outside, the lights still off, and everything appeared untouched. Her work uniform hung neatly on a chair, her phone was still charging on the bedside table, and her cat had gone unfed for a full day. There were no signs of forced entry, no broken glass, no struggle, just an eerie stillness that didn't fit the life of someone who was supposed to return home the night before. Detectives canvassed the neighborhood, asking if anyone had seen anything suspicious. A few neighbors recalled hearing a car engine late that night, but no one had looked outside. Surveillance cameras from nearby stores helped piece together the missing timeline. The footage confirmed she had never gone home after work. She had left with someone else, but who? The discovery of her missing car only deepened the mystery. The vehicle wasn't in her usual hospital parking spot or near her apartment. Investigators placed an alert on the license plate and began combing through traffic cameras. Each hour that passed added to the growing dread that something was terribly wrong. Clearwater Bay, a place where nothing ever happened, was now at the center of a disturbing disappearance. Whispers spread quickly across town. The friendly nurse everyone loved had vanished into the night, leaving behind nothing but unanswered questions. What had started as a quiet Friday evening was turning into a nightmare, one that would soon reveal how carefully darkness can hide behind the illusion of normal life. Detectives working on Diana Duve's case quickly discovered that the last person she had been in contact with was Elias Rowan. His name appeared in her phone records multiple times on the night she vanished. He was a financial advisor in his early 30s, known around Clearwater Bay for his confidence and charm. On the surface, Elias seemed successful. He drove expensive cars, wore tailored suits, and lived in a high-end apartment overlooking the marina. But beneath the surface, whispers about his temper and possessiveness followed him everywhere. Friends of Diana told investigators that she had recently broken off her relationship with Elias. After months of controlling behavior, she had confided in one friend, saying she felt unsafe but didn't want to make things worse by going to the police. Detective Laura Finch and Officer Damon Kerr visited Elias at his apartment 3 days after Diana went missing. He greeted them with the calm politeness of a man who believed he had nothing to hide. He claimed Diana had come over that evening to pick up a few of her belongings, and that she had left after a brief argument. His story was simple, rehearsed even, but what drew attention were the small details: the scratches on his hands, the faint bruise near his collarbone, and his overly confident demeanor. When asked if he knew where Diana might have gone, he shrugged and said she was probably upset, and needed space. As investigators left, Finch's instincts told her something was wrong. They decided to search Elias's vehicle, a dark gray sedan matching the one seen in the hospital's CCTV footage. Inside, everything seemed meticulously clean. Forensic experts began to run tests on the seats and floor mats, swabbing for trace evidence. The results that came back 2 days later changed everything. A single strand of blonde hair was found embedded in the fabric of the passenger seat headrest. DNA analysis confirmed it belonged to Diana Duve. The discovery placed her in Elias's car the night she disappeared, completely destroying his calm explanation. Investigators obtained a warrant to search his apartment, where they found more unsettling clues: a torn piece of cloth with faint reddish stains, a bottle of industrial cleaner, and a set of car keys that didn't belong to his vehicle. While none of these items directly proved murder, they hinted at something sinister. Digging deeper into Elias's background revealed a pattern of disturbing behavior. Two previous girlfriends had filed restraining orders against him for harassment and threats, though both cases were mysteriously dropped before trial. Each woman had described similar experiences. Elias could be charming one moment and coldly menacing the next. As word spread through the police department, the case began shifting from a missing person to a homicide investigation. The careful image Elias had built for himself was beginning to crumble. Detectives now saw him not as a grieving ex-boyfriend, but as a man with something to hide. Yet, without a body or a direct confession, everything remained suspended in uncertainty. The clock was ticking, and the silence around Diana's disappearance was becoming unbearable. The once composed and untouchable Elias Rowan was now under a microscope, and every new piece of evidence hinted that the truth was far darker than anyone had imagined. Days slipped into weeks, and Clearwater Bay was gripped by unease. The disappearance of Diana Duve had turned from a local mystery into a statewide search. Posters with her photo covered telephone poles, and her mother, Evelyn, appeared on television pleading for answers. The police worked tirelessly, chasing leads that led nowhere. The pressure on Detective Laura Finch grew heavier each day. Without a body, the case against Elias Rowan remained circumstantial. He had stopped cooperating and hired a lawyer, claiming harassment from the police. Yet his composure only deepened their suspicion. Then, nearly a month after Diana's disappearance, a fisherman named Carl Benson called 911. He had been fishing near the Clearwater River bridge early one morning when he noticed a strange shimmer beneath the surface, something metallic reflecting in the sunlight. At first, he thought it was debris, but the shape looked too large, too deliberate. When police divers arrived, the river was still and quiet, its murky waters hiding secrets. Moments later, bubbles rose to the surface as the divers discovered what everyone had feared. Submerged at the bottom was a car, its windows clouded with silt and algae. The license plate matched Diana's missing vehicle. As the car was slowly pulled out of the water, a heavy silence fell over everyone watching. Inside, still strapped by her seatbelt, was the lifeless body of Diana Duve. The discovery broke the town's fragile hope in an instant. What had begun as a desperate search for a missing woman had just become a murder case. The medical examiner's report confirmed what detectives suspected. Diana had not drowned. She had been strangled before the car ever hit the water. There were bruises on her neck consistent with manual pressure, and marks on her wrists suggesting she had been restrained. The killer had driven her car to the bridge and pushed it into the river, likely during the early hours of the morning. It was a careful attempt to make the death look like a suicide, but one small detail gave it away. The driver's seat had been adjusted too far back, a position impossible for Diana's height. The discovery reignited the investigation with renewed intensity. Elias's name surfaced again, this time as the primary suspect in a confirmed homicide. But his alibi was still holding. Security footage showed him at a grocery store around the same time. Diana's car was likely dumped. It seemed airtight until officers reviewed footage from a nearby gas station. There, at the edge of the frame, Elias's sedan appeared briefly, yet he wasn't alone. A second figure was visible in the passenger seat. The grainy footage was enough to raise a chilling question. Had Elias acted alone? When detectives ran the video through image enhancement software, They managed to make out the faint outline of the second man's face. It was familiar. After days of searching, they identified him as Grant Myles, Elias's friend and co-worker at the financial firm. The connection between the two men added a new layer to the puzzle. It wasn't just a case of rage and impulse anymore, it looked like a carefully orchestrated cover-up. Detective Finch knew they were close, but something about the scene at the river still didn't fit perfectly. The precision, the cleanup, the timing, it all felt too calculated for a single person in panic. The truth, she realized, might not only expose a murderer, but also reveal how far someone would go to keep their secret buried beneath the water's surface. Grant Myles had always lived in the shadow of Elias Rowan, where Elias was confident and magnetic. Grant was quiet and easily influenced. The two had worked together at the same financial firm for years, sharing not just professional ties, but a complex friendship built on manipulation and fear. Elias often treated Grant like an assistant rather than an equal, and Grant, desperate for approval, tolerated every insult. When detectives discovered Grant's connection to Elias on the night Diana vanished, it felt like the missing piece of a puzzle that had finally snapped into place. Detective Finch brought Grant in for questioning under the guise of a routine interview. He appeared nervous, his hands trembling as he answered simple questions. He denied any involvement, claiming he hadn't spoken to Elias in weeks. But his story began to crumble when detectives showed him the enhanced gas station footage, clearly capturing his face inside Elias's sedan. His silence after that was louder than any confession. The breakthrough came during a search of Grant's storage unit, located on the outskirts of town. Inside, hidden beneath old boxes of paperwork, officers found a plastic-wrapped bag. It contained Diana Duve's missing handbag, still carrying her identification card, hospital badge, and wristwatch. Alongside it were muddy shoes and a set of disposable gloves. Forensics later confirmed that the mud on those shoes matched the riverbank soil, where Diana's car had been pushed into the water. When confronted with the evidence, Grant broke down. His voice trembled as he admitted that Elias had called him on the night of Diana's death, frantic and demanding help. Elias told him he had made a mistake and needed to fix it. Grant claimed that when he arrived, Diana was already dead, her body lying lifeless in the passenger's seat. Elias had wrapped her in a blanket and instructed him to drive her car to the river. Out of fear and confusion, Grant did as he was told. Together, they rolled the car down the embankment and watched it disappear beneath the dark water. Then, Elias gave him a bag with Diana's belongings and told him to get rid of it. Grant said he panicked and hid it in the storage unit, unable to destroy it. But investigators didn't believe the story completely. The forensic team found fingerprints belonging to Grant, not only on the steering wheel of Diana's car, but also on the seatbelt buckle that restrained her body. This detail suggested he had helped position her inside before the car was submerged. His involvement was far deeper than he wanted to admit. Detectives also uncovered text messages between the two men from the day before the murder, with Elias expressing anger over Diana ruining his reputation. The pattern revealed careful planning rather than a sudden loss of control. Grant had known what was coming, and instead of stopping it, he had chosen to be a part of it. By the time police finished their investigation, Grant's role as an accomplice was undeniable. He had not killed Diana himself, but he had helped conceal the truth, turning her final moments into a twisted illusion of disappearance. The friendship that once bound the two men together had now become the very chain that dragged them both toward their downfall. The arrest of Elias Rowan and Grant Myles sent shockwaves through Clearwater Bay. The calm, respectable image Elias had built for years collapsed overnight, replaced by the portrait of a calculating killer. Grant, once his quiet and obedient companion, was now painted as the weak accomplice who helped cover up a murder. The truth that had been buried under fear and deception was finally rising to the surface. Piece by piece, investigators reconstructed the final hours of Diana Duve's life through forensic evidence, phone data, and confessions. After her shift at the hospital, she had agreed to meet Elias one last time to collect a few belongings she had left behind at his apartment. The meeting quickly turned violent. Driven by anger and obsession, Elias strangled her in his living room after another argument about their breakup. There were bruises on his hands that matched the pressure marks on Diana's neck, proof of his direct involvement. Once he realized she was dead, panic turned into calculation. Elias knew he couldn't leave her body in the apartment. He called Grant, telling him that something terrible had happened and he needed help to make it disappear. Grant arrived late that night, and together they placed Diana's body into her car. Pretending she had driven away, they cleaned the apartment meticulously with industrial cleaner, removing every trace of blood and DNA. Then, under the cover of darkness, they drove toward Clearwater River. The crime might have remained hidden if not for a series of small, careless mistakes. The first was the parking ticket Elias had received at a lot near the bridge, timestamped up to 17 a.m., hours after he claimed to have last seen Diana alive. That single slip destroyed his alibi. The second mistake was the faint trace of Diana's perfume lingering in the back seat of his own car, which forensic dogs detected during a search. These minor details, combined with the recovered evidence from Grant's storage unit, created a timeline that left no room for doubt. During the trial, Elias tried to manipulate the story. He claimed Grant had acted alone, insisting he had been in shock and unaware of the plan to dump the car. Grant, on the other hand, portrayed himself as a victim terrified, threatened, and forced to help. But the jury saw through both lies. Digital forensics revealed that the two had exchanged multiple calls and texts throughout that night, coordinating the disposal and discussing the river route. There was no coercion, only cooperation. Elias was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life without parole. Grant received 20 years for being an accessory after the fact and obstruction of justice. The courtroom was silent as Diana Duve listened to the verdict. Her hands trembled, but there was relief in her eyes. For the first time since that dreadful night, she knew the truth. The case left an unforgettable scar on Clearwater Bay. It became a symbol of how evil can hide behind charm, how carefully a killer can build a mask of perfection, and how one mistake can shatter it all. Diana's story, once buried beneath lies and water, was now known to the world, a haunting reminder that even the most calculated cover-up can never withstand the weight of truth.